I'm Lucas. Have you ever felt the warmth of the sun in its embrace? How warm and nourishing it feels on your skin? The sun is a gift from God, and without its perfect placement from the earth, we would either be frozen solid or burnt to a crisp. And all these little details in the way it's placed and all the things it provides for us with warmth and nourishment to both us and to plants. These are all things that we could take for granted because it's always there in the sky, and it's never not been there, except for at night, obviously. But I want you to take the sun in your mind, that image of warmth and of light, and let's compare it to the image of God in our mind. I think that when God made the sun, he meant it as a metaphor for himself, while also providing us all of these physical things. The sun was made to bring nourishment and warmth to us and the earth, similarly to how God brings nourishment. So sunlight exposure has physical and mental benefits. Ann M. and their colleagues wrote in their article titled "Why We Need More Nature at Work: Effects of Natural Elements and Sunlight on Employee Mental Health and Work Attitudes" from PLOS One Journal, that direct sunlight to the skin helps produce vitamin D, which, quote, improves the immune function, regulates the inflammatory response, and influences calcium homeostasis. That's a lot of proof for how much we need the sun physically. With all of these things, improving the immune function, just from being in the sunlight, we can increase our vitamin D and be sick less. And that's amazing. Mentally speaking of the sun and its benefits, I'm bad at pronouncing this name. I believe it's Tui Y, and their colleagues wrote also on the matter of the sun and the benefits we receive from it. An abstract on their article titled "The Relationship Between Sunlight Exposure Duration and Depressive Symptoms, a Cross-Sectional Study on Elderly Chinese Women," also from PLOS One Journal. And they wrote, quote, "Greater exposure to sunlight is associated with a lower prevalence of depressive symptoms." And that's something I think, even if it's something that's not noticed very much, if someone is depressed, oftentimes they seclude themselves, they stay inside a lot, they don't have the drive to go outside, and that compounds on them because the more they're inside, the less sunlight they're getting, the more depressed they're wanting to be. So it's a trap, really, that we can get ourselves into. Without these ways that the sun helps our bodies and minds, we really be suffering. We would be more prone to sickness. We could break out with our skin with less vitamin D, which I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like in just a moment. We can actually break out into rashes, as some sources say, and have white spots on our skin as well, some sources say. So what happens? So I'm going to show you the image. This is kind of a gross image, just be warned. Oh no, I'm not able to access it from here. Oops. Here's an image of something your skin could look like if you didn't get adequate vitamin D, a rash that you might get on your skin. Pretty gross. Nasty looking. So even if we had adequate warmth to our bodies, even if we were getting warmth from some sort of artificial thing like a fire or light bulbs, if we're not getting the vitamin D from the sun, we're going to be suffering either way, even if our bodies are at the right temperature to survive. The lack of sunlight has been shown to increase all-cause mortality rate, some sources say. Just as our body gets sick without the sun, our spirit gets sick without God, which is another I think it's a really cool way that the sun ties in as a metaphor for God and his embrace for us. He feeds us spiritually things that nourish us and keep our spirit healthy and alive. But when we're separated from him, when we don't have a relationship with him, that all of that's cut off, and we don't have that nourishment that our spirit craves, whether we know that it craves it or not. So God's secret manna that he provides for us, as a verse in Revelation, I believe, says, it's like the vitamin D that the sun gives us. Just like we need the sun for nourishment and warmth, we also need God to bring us spiritual nourishment and warmth. So God's embrace is even greater than the sun's embrace. He made the sun, I believe, thinking of it as a metaphor for him. But it doesn't mean that the sun is like God. He made it as a fraction. It's a fraction of what he is. It's just an image, just to show you just a little bit what it's like. But God's embrace is so much better than that. It's more comforting, it's more warm. We need to be intentional about things like this in nature. There's metaphors in nature. All of these things, like another one that I can draw from the Bible is when Jesus spoke to the Samaritan woman, referencing God's Spirit as the living water. Water is essentially the essence of life in a physical sense. Without water, nothing can survive. Even single cell, even the plants and animals and humans all need water to survive. And if that's cut off from them, they will eventually die. And another way we can type God into the sun is his blinding radiance. If we stare at the sun, we're going to go blind. We can't handle that. Our lens isn't appropriate to look at him in his beauty. No one's ever seen the face of God, at least not lived. The closest thing anyone ever has seen is Moses seeing God's back as he walked past his presence. The sun brings warmth and vitamins, and God brings love and relationship. He loves you enough to give you the sun, but his embrace is better and more comforting than that of the sun's. Every time you step into the sun's embrace, I encourage you to think of God's love for you. Not to think that the sun's embrace is God's love for you, but to be reminded and comforted. Thank you for listening. You can turn it off.
They don't have to pan again.
No.
No.
I guess you can.